Welcome to Satsang. Yeah, the last few weeks I've been getting a tremendous amount of emails about negative thinking. And it always follows a pattern. It is so interesting. This particular one is typical of many. He wrote the following: "There is something inside of me that almost feels like a mean bully that doesn't let me completely enjoy life. It almost seems as if another life form that sort of taunts and tortures me, or maybe it is the bully inside me. I'd like to be all for me and in love with myself, so how do I release this?" Now this is typical of many that I have received. Okay? Okay, there's lots of good news if you happen to be a negative thinker, once you understand what it all means. Okay, first I'd like to start by telling you a little story about a Cherokee Indian chief who was instructing his son about life. It's a small little child, brave, you see, Indian. And he said, "Son," he said, "every human being has two wolves inside him. One is feeling always guilty, angry, revengeful, jealous, prideful, and destructive. And then we have another wolf inside us, one that is calm, peaceful, happy, loving, joyous, and in touch with his true nature. Now, son, which one will win?" And the son looked a little perplexed and he didn't know what to answer. And he said, "Who will win?" And the chief said, "That which is being fed. The one you feed is the one that will take over." So here we start with the negative thinking. First of all, remember that negative thinking, like so many people have written as if something is happening to them, it is you who's creating it. And we're going to see that there's good news in that, so bear with me. See, the reason we keep negative thinking is because, how shall I put it? Negative thinking is a very builds on itself. How would you put it? For example, if you ever feel angry, chances are that you're going to feel angry for being angry. Okay? And it keeps on multiplying. That is the nature of negativity. If you ever feel guilty, then you feel guilty for feeling guilty. And if you were able to get rid of guilt, what will happen? You'll feel guilty for not feeling guilty. So negativity is not only repetitive, it keeps on building on itself. And we're going to understand why. Okay? But first, we have to know one thing, because we do have a choice. And all spiritual teachings tell us that we really don't have free will. So, but we do have choice as far as negative thinking is concerned. How? Because life is made up, like the Cherokee Indian said, between a good one and a bad one. Not that is the case in reality, but we all have two sides, the human and the being. The human is ego, and the being is the natural state of us. The true, living state of us. So now, what is free will? Is really their free will? Well, yes and no. Okay? No, because we are so conditioned, we have placed so much importance on our past, that we believe we are memory beings. We believe that everything that's happened to us is really who we are. If I've been abused when I was a child, I believe totally that that is my experience, and I'm going to defend it. I'm going to do everything in my power to keep it real. because somehow or other I want to matter. I want to count. You see? So my identity is very important to me. And negativity is really like a comfort, something comfortable. You want it there because it keeps asserting that you are an ego. You see, so you defend it and protect it with everything you've got. And this is why it keeps repeating, but it becomes very, very subconscious, even unconscious. You see? So let's go into the free will. So we are so conditioned because we've invested so much time in our past that we really think we are past. See, there's another thing too that I'd like to say. When I was a young man, I loved psychology ever since I could read. And you know, I came from Malta, a very small country, and we didn't have any spiritual books except Christianity, which didn't teach me anything, you know. And so I used to get these books on psychology, and psychology teaches you about motivation, it teaches you about setting goals, it teaches you how to have a good self-image, even how to have a good ego. But it wasn't later, many years later, that I realized in the year 2000 I actually woke up and realized that this is all bunko. Even motivation is not necessary. We still have teachers telling you how to be motivated. You don't need motivation. If you feel the spirit inside you alive and you get inspired, inspiration is 10 times better than any motivation, because something takes over. You see? So we keep missing these real values. So do we have choice? Well, in a way, yes, but it's called seeing. Now, when we talk about seeing, I don't mean physical sight. I mean looking at something and actually feeling it, seeing it. You see, for example, what choice do we have? There are hundreds of feelings. But in truth, and even the Course in Miracles states it, there are two emotions, love or fear. We choose either love or fear. Now, if you are feeling fear, all you need is one moment of asking yourself, is this going to work? And immediately your heart will tell you, no. The only thing that works is love. You see? And that's the only choice we have. But you're not really making a choice at that moment. You are taking a pause to look at the possibilities of what is happening inside you. The reason negativity is constant, it is because it's unconscious. We don't even know it's happening. We just, all of a sudden, we are in a bad mood. This thinking takes over and we believe it. You see? We don't know that it isn't real because we don't stop to look at it. You see, the moment you look at it, actually see it, you will see this is something you're telling yourself. Okay? But now we come to a very important question. Why do we keep telling ourselves these negative things when we know that they are destructive? Well, first of all, we really don't realize how destructive they really are, because we think it's real. Number two, what actually happens with negativity is that we are afraid of truth. The greatest human fear, and if you realize this could be such a big jump, really, in your thinking. It was the Course in Miracles that said, it was Jesus who said actually in the Course, and it says that all spiritual suffering is a defense against waking up. You see? So you might say, many people will say, as they have written in the emails, I'm suffering from negativity, but I want to wake up. I want to love myself. You see? But what they want to do is to keep their ego alive. But the truth is, there is no ego. There never been an ego, and there'll never be one. It's all a lie that we've been telling ourselves in our psychology, in our training. You see that we are a separate personal individual. But when we wake up, we realize there's never been such a thing. There's only oneness playing the part. You are a human being, a being playing the human role. See? So this becomes the greatest fear. Now why is it a fear? Why is it such a great fear of truth? Because of one thing.
There's nobody there.
There's nobody there. And that is the most scary thing there is. But whenever we experience it, even for a moment, it becomes the most joyous, the most celebratous, is there a word?
Freedom.
Freedom that there is. There is nothing absolutely great, you know. And what happened to me in the year 2000, there's nothing to learn, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to achieve, but there is no birth. Ah, that was the freedom. See, that was the awakening. There is no birth. Even now who's talking is just the form talking, the energy talking. You see? But that's beautiful because there's nothing to defend, there's nothing to protect. You see? And there's nothing to worry about because I'm being taken care of. You see? See, another thing that is so beautiful when you begin to realize that there's nothing, absolutely nothing. It's all spirit. Even the world is one big illusion. That's all it is. All imagination, everything. But beyond that, beyond the mind, lies spirit. And spirit is. Now, there are 5 words that have helped me and have helped a lot of people, and they are like this. Let go and let God. Whenever you happen to be worried, upset, uncertain, have a problem, anything, let go and let God. And then people will come back and say, but how do I know God exists? Well, let me tell you this. God doesn't exist. God is. Do you understand the difference? You see? This exists. Nature exists. Everything exists. But existence itself, that which brought it about, is a nothingness, is spirit. You see? And that is what scares us the most. So whenever we find that a part of us is going to disappear, okay, we hold on. Many people meditate and then they feel as if they're going into an abyss, they're going into an emptiness that they can't handle. And they get out, they just can't handle it. Okay, this is the fear of losing the ego. But what if you allowed it? You see how beautiful that would be? Because then you would reach a level of understanding that nobody can teach you. I am talking, but I'm not teaching you anything. If your heart is not open now, these are just words. Because nobody can teach you truth. Truth is that emptiness. That when you sit very still, be still and know, I am God. You see? So are we beginning to see here that all there is the oneness. All there is the oneness. So how do we deal with negativity when it happens? Now here is the good news. Every time that negativity comes to you, there is a pattern in that negativity. Well, first of all, before we go into the pattern, let me say this. All negativity comes because we want to be in control. We don't want to let God be in control. We want to be in control. The ego wants to be in control. And that is self-destructive. You see? If you want success, if you want to be bountiful, not necessarily in the amount of money in the bank, but to always have what you need, it is to trust, really, okay? To trust that which is. So there are 3 things that we have to understand that keep us thinking negatively. They're called control. 3 kinds of control. See, if we've been abused as a child, if we haven't known much love from our parents, if we haven't been accepted and validated as human beings, then we grow up with a feeling as if something is wrong. That's called the living question. Something is wrong. I'm missing something. There must be something wrong with me. Okay? And this thought becomes very, very powerful. Most people live and die with that living in them all the time. Okay? So therefore, what happens? Why do we start having that feeling? It is because we have been controlled. But then again, because people are not awakened, our parents are not awakened beings, they control us because they think that's the best way to live. You see? We do not realize that surrender, flow with life, it's something to allow. It's not something that you can teach another, but you can teach them to relax and to be themselves. That everybody is beautiful in their own way. Everybody is beautiful, no matter how, you know, what level, what race, what color, what nationality, whatever. It doesn't matter because you are the being itself. So when you start to surrender and let go, automatically then that energy takes over. But we don't want that. We want to be in control. And the reason we want to be in control is because we have been controlled. Now what happens is that when you want to be in control, you become afraid of being controlled. And so if somebody tells you something, you've done something wrong. What do you mean? You know, and you defend yourself, you protect yourself. You can't stand it because you're afraid of being controlled. How dare they talk to me like this? Yesterday I went to a store and she wasn't nice to me, the cashier. And you keep mulling it over. This happens all the time. I get emails all the time, people worrying about something as simple as that. Or somebody was laughing behind me. I'm sure they were laughing at me. You see? Now why is that? Fear of losing control. It's as if we as an ego, as if we are the only thing in the world. You see? So therefore, when you're afraid of being controlled, okay, you want to be in control. But when you want to be in control all the time, you are under stress all the time. You're tired all the time. So it comes as self-consciousness. It comes as fear. It comes as fear of people. It comes as discomfort with yourself. You're always living with this fear of being out of control. But why do we fear not being in control? Because losing control is the greatest human fear. Panic attack is losing control. Depression is losing control. Going crazy, insane, is losing control. You see? Think of all the negative dysfunctions you can think of, and they are all loss of control. And somehow we feel that if we give up our control, we're going to lose our control and we're going to go nuts. And we'll end up nuts because that's the law of attraction. We become what we focus on. Isn't that a kick in the pants? So this is what is happening all the time. These three states of control. You remember them because this is how to understand the ego. The ego wants to be in control. It's afraid of being controlled by another. It's deadly afraid of being controlled by another. And it's on its guard, protecting and defending itself all the time. And all the time there's the lurking feeling that somehow I'm going to lose control. You see, those three are ever there. So how do we deal with this? It's the simplest thing in the world. It is becoming in love with the spirit that you are. It is beginning to see that you are a being playing the human role. You see? And when you begin to see that you are spirit, really, you are a being playing the human role of Jim, of Bill, you see, of Liz, of Kaylee, and Glennis, we mentioned, of Burt. Right. So when you feel that you are, you're just playing this role, you begin to relax. Don't you feel relaxed when you know you're just playing a role? Nothing is serious. There's nothing to be serious about. If you worry about what tomorrow is going to bring, you are dying inside. A part of you is dying. You see? But once you start to relax, once you start to let be, let go and let God. So there's the word again, God, you see? And we always make it religious. You know, we make it something up there. God is the emptiness. God is the nothingness. God is the spirit that you are. Right now, become very still. Just for a moment, close your eyes. And ask yourself, what am I? What am I, really? I mean, here, right now. Forget the past because it's gone. Forget what you think you're going to be tomorrow. Just now. What am I? And then open your eyes and see, what am I? I'm just here. I'm just here. Where is the knowledge and the education and the degrees that you've had? Where is it? You can only retain you can only retain that which has become a part of you, an expression of you. But you are far more even than that expression. You are the one that's aware of it. You are the awareness itself. Are you understanding me? You are awareness. What am I? I am awareness. Not what you're aware of, because that's consciousness, which is also an important part. But the true state of your being is pure awareness. Pure awareness is a nothingness. It's nothing. And because it is nothing, it is everything. Now, that is the God in you. You see? The greatest power there is. Now, when you begin to get glimpses of this essence that you are, Ramana Maharshi used to say, ask who am I? And people used to ask it over and over again like a mantra. And he says, well, I'm not getting any place. I'm not getting any answers. And they do not realize that the fact that you don't get an answer is the answer. Why? Why is it the answer? When you ask who am I, and all of a sudden you go, blah, I really don't know. Why is it the answer?
Because you're not an object.
Exactly. And the mind that you think you are does not know who you are, because you're far greater than the mind. That's it. You are stumped the moment you ask who am I, and there is no experience of it. But there can be an experience of it when you realize you are that very silence that comes from it, because there is no answer. And the no answer is the answer. This is the paradox of duality, you see? So, and the greatest block that creates this negativity all the time is called unconscious guilt. It's a feeling as if we've done something wrong. As if there is something wrong with us. And these feelings surface. They can surface when you get up in the morning, or maybe even before going to bed at night, or they could be when you feel you're alone. You know, the most wonderful thing that has happened to me is when I became friends with the I am that I am. I call it the Holy Spirit. And there is nothing that can take its place. You see? So now what I'd like to do is to have some of you ask questions from what you've heard and relating it to yourself.
When you say I became friends with the I am, I've been watching negativity rise. As soon as I wake up in the morning, the mind just starts in.
Of course.
And all of a sudden...
And why? Why does it start right away?
Need something to do.
No, because the ego rises with you.
Okay.
As soon as you arise, there I am. You see?
But at the same time, as it arises, I've been beginning to have a little bit of separation and see what it is. See myself go towards it and to get attached. But then start breathing or feeling my feet coming into my body and not feeding or acknowledging the negativity. Because if I started to go, no, I shouldn't have this negativity, it's bad, or if I started analyzing it or trying to make it go away, it won't.
Oh, it will increase.
Right. So it's the same thing, it's sort of like the opposite. So
but why? Why does it increase? when you try to intellectualize
Because I'm
it,
identifying with it.
not only you're identifying with it, you're making it real.
Right. So when you say so when I see the separation and I just try to come into my body, into the nothingness, and just breathe and allow the negativity to just float wherever it's floating, is that the same thing as making friends with the I am?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a free floating. It's a free flowing. You see, you can never be alone because there is no separation. Nothing is absolutely separate. As a matter of fact, now all scientists know that everything is a unified principle. Everything is oneness. This is a fact. All the greatest masters will tell you everything is one. You see, and that one is called God. You know, Buddha didn't call it God, he called it nirvana. But words don't matter, it's all one thing, and it's called oneness. See, that oneness is who you are. When you start taking moments and really feel, who am I really? You know, and there's a silence. And you allow that silence, you are making friends with the Holy Spirit. Okay, which is the I am. I love the term Holy Spirit that the Course of Miracles talks about, because the Holy Spirit is regarded as the midway point between God as a totally pure being, okay, which has nothing to do with the world, and then the human form, the human being, and the I am, which is the Holy Spirit, is like a medium in between. So it takes you, like for example, let's say you were coming here to Satsang, and then for a moment you felt pulled to go where you wanted to go, okay, and it came from your heart, right? It felt good. Okay, that's how the Holy Spirit works. The Holy Spirit is always taking you step by step to what you need, you see, but you know it's right because it's not a thought. You didn't think about it. You see, it comes. You know, and like a month ago, I got up in the morning and I had an urge. He said, "Sit down and start writing," and I wrote, which is a book now. It's like Hiding in Plain Sight. And so I started writing it. It's still incomplete and it's still unedited, but there were a few people who asked me for copies. And I sent them the PDF, and I've had tremendous raves about it. You know, people telling me, "Oh my goodness, I had so many insights, and it did this for me, it did this for me." Okay. So now what I'm trying to say is, did I write it? Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Right.
It came from a different place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when we make friends with the Holy Spirit, you become guided. You know, sometimes I reach a point where I'm in need for a little extra money. You know, I kid you not, the next day or the day after, always in perfect timing, I get a donation. You know, it's so beautiful when you start seeing that you are a being playing the human role. Something takes over. And when it takes over, all negativity drops, because negativity is nothing more than a protection and the defense of an ego, because you're afraid of being nothing. But the most beautiful thing of spirituality is being nothing. But that scares the hell out of people. Do you know how many people are spiritual seekers? There are millions. Okay, do you know how many of them are following the non-duality aspect? 3 or 4%. They're all into spiritual fascination. You know what spiritual fascination is? Okay. And spiritual fascination is not the truth. But you see, if I get interested in astrology, in the Enneagram, in the angels, in reincarnation and karma and UFOs and this and this and that, which is all true, which is all valid. If I get interested in that, I'm being spiritual. I have so much knowledge. But we don't want to go deep enough where our self is lost in it. Jesus said, when you lose yourself, you find yourself. You see? So, but we don't want to go that far. We want to stick to the idea of who we think we are. And that becomes a disease, a malfunction. And it starts with negative thinking. And it keeps on escalating until we learn from it. The beautiful thing is that if you are thinking negatively, you can use it right now to get in touch with it, become aware. Stop and really see, what is your mind telling you right now? And follow it. I've been telling myself there's something wrong with me here. People don't love me. People don't like me so much. Maybe I'm getting too old and people are not interested in me. You know, all these thoughts that come to you, you just watch them and see how they are constantly trying to protect an elusive idea of who you think you are, which doesn't exist and never existed. You see? And then as you do that, you begin to see, if you are very, very aware, you know, like, I don't mean very aware, sorry. The word is dedicated to finding out. Then something becomes, that's where the Holy Spirit comes in. This energy called the Holy Spirit will start to come in and start guiding you. You see? And you get moments. I was going out with a friend recently, and he invited me out to lunch, you know, that with his wife. And I love that couple. And then as we were talking, sitting down, he said to me, Burt, you know, I get moments when I sit and all of a sudden I get these waves of joy that come to me, these beautiful waves. And then I said, yes, this is the meeting with the Holy Spirit. You know, that you are connecting with the state that you are, with the knowing of who you are. You see? And of course he's about my age, you know. So it is true that some people get wiser when they get older, but not many do. Well, he's wise. Yeah. So anyway, so this is to answer your question. This is how to make friends with the Holy Spirit. And remember one thing, that if it sounds a little too esoteric, just say I am. Mm-hmm. Okay? I am. Not I am Glenda or I am Burt. I am. Without an attachment to it. You see? And then when you start seeing that and you start living from that, you see, you can never be alone. If someday you feel, oh, you don't have a date today, you don't have anyone to go out with, or you're all alone, and the little loneliness starts to come. Just be still and know I am. You see? And as you begin to practice this, something actually starts coming, you see? And this is where forgiveness comes in. This is where I have to mention forgiveness. See, the reason, when we think of forgiveness, we think of forgiving something. But forgiveness is not forgiving something, it's realizing that there's nothing to forgive. You see, for example, you get up in the morning and you've got these thoughts. How do you forgive them? Look at them. Really look at them and see what is happening. And the moment you do that, there's a part in you which is dedicated to want to know what is true. Okay? You begin to see that there's really nothing there except a thought. Just thinking. The moment you actually see there's nothing there, you've forgiven it. You see? That's what forgiveness is.